welcome. Well, thank you, authors. Thank you all for coming. And I think we are just ready now for our featured author, which is Clarence A. Haynes. And I don't know if you are familiar with this author, but his genre is Afrofuturism. So that's a little different for me. I was not like into that, but just discovering it, we're gonna bring him on. All right, so at this time we have Clarence Haynes. He is the author of The Ghosts of Gwendolyn Montgomery. And we're going to talk to him about this incredible Afrofuturistic book. And if you guys are also interested, the book's signing, and it'll be available for purchase and for signing immediately following. So we're just going to open up with just a general quick review. Tell us a little, bring everybody up to speed on what the book is about and how you introduced these characters into our world.
Absolutely. Firstly, I just want to say thank you so much, everyone. My name is, as you know, is Clarence A. Haynes, and I am from New York. And believe it or not, this is my first time to Atlanta. And so to Atlanta, and people who know me and know that I'm Mr. Diaspora, I'm Mr. Black, they're like, you've never been. They think something's wrong with me.
Let you go back to New York.
So I appreciate that. It's been very emotional to be here and at the conference and just meeting readers and fellow authors who are doing amazing things. So thank you so much for having me. My novel is called, as Yolanda said, The Ghosts of Gwendolyn Montgomery. It is a glam horror urban fantasy novel, and I see people making faces. It's about a high-powered New York City publicist who has a secret mystical past. And she runs this agency, or I should say helps run this agency known as Sublime Creative. She's putting on events, and one of her events, a big fashion show at the Brooklyn Museum, goes terribly wrong. And so as the book proceeds, we begin to learn more about who she really is, her past, a big hint, her name is not her birth name, it's a constructed identity. And so we begin to figure out who she is. She also has a mysterious connection to a dude named Fonzie. He's a psychic, Panamanian American like me, and he can communicate with ghosts. And he's learned that pissed off ghosts are about to invade our world. And so my publisher describes it as Tia Williams meets Ghostbusters, and it's a work of genre fusion. It's a bit horror, it's a bit fantasy, it's a bit romance, which we'll get into, and it's a bit mystery thriller. And I wanted to do something that would mix genres, that would, as Yolanda has said, deal with Afrofuturist concepts, but also pay homage to powerful black women. I grew up in New York, and I was surrounded by professional black women who have really shaped my life in so many ways, both in terms of people who belong to my family and the women I've worked with, women I passed by in the street. And so I just felt like, well, why can't so-and-so be the center, the protagonist of her own mystical adventure? So that was like the big inspiration that went into writing this. So.
Exactly. Rob, can you give me a little bit more on my mic, please? Exactly, which is what I loved about the story. When I read it, what I will tell you, and new to Afrofuturism and new to you as an author, what struck me were the characters.
Thank you.
The characters are so interesting. And Fonzie, can I say about his relationship?
Sure.
So this was the first, I don't know anything about this genre. This Fonzie is a character who had an intimate relationship with a ghost. A ghost. And the way that they interact, now it sounds odd, right? But what I will tell you about why I would say read this book is because of the writing, right? Some of you, I know your writing and your writing style, and I read a lot of books, but this man writes lyrically. So as he describes the characters and their interaction with one another, you are sensing their feeling. You actually can get into the character and their emotions and their sentiment and forget that he's with a ghost. You know, so it's that kept me turning the pages, Clarence. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I'm so heartened to hear that. I'm a big character development person. A lot of people who write like genre, fantasy, horror, they're sometimes into the whole genre of it all. The how much can I scare this person, or how much can I gruesome can I make the scene? I'm not as interested in that as who the characters are, where they come from, what are their motivations, how do they love, how do they move through the world. One thing that has come up, I did an interview with a journalist in New York's PR station, WNYC, and she brought up the film Sinners, and she said it reminded her of the film in some ways in that it starts off, you know, Sinners, it starts off with character, with history, with their connection to the land and each other, and then you get deeper into the vampires. And it's similar with this. There's a lot of character stuff in the beginning, and then increasingly we get to the ghosts. So. Right.
So I would say that it was just beautifully done.
Thank you very much.
Absolutely beautifully done. Can you tell us about Gwendolyn? Introduce the audience to Gwendolyn. She is sweet. You're gonna fall in love with that character. Go ahead.
Gwendolyn is, as I said, is a publicist who lives in Harlem, New York. So I'm looking at the audience, and there are Gwendolyns in the audience. She likes her attire to be just so. She would wear a certain type of earring. She would have her hair just so. She would figure out, even though her own apartment, she keeps things pretty minimalist for her clients, she would figure out like, oh, this artwork would go well with your look, with what you're trying to present to the world. She's immaculate in her presentation and pretty much badass. And then increasingly though, it gets deeper. We begin to understand, well, why does everything have to be just so? Why is she so meticulous about that? And it has a lot to do with stuff she's dealt with in her past. The other big thing that's up with Gwendolyn is she's met a dude. His name is James. He's a sweetie pie from PG County. And
DG County in the house?
Nobody. And she's very ambivalent about getting too close to him, and we don't understand why. He's a good guy, he's really into her, but she keeps on drawing back. And so again, it's connected to the mysteries of her path.
And so as you unfold these characters and you begin to see them as individuals, and then they start with friendships and community and how they connect one to the other, and the past, and then comes back to the present and so forth. Did you have, when you first started writing, did you know where they were going to end up, or are you the type of writer like some of our other authors where the story unfolds it's all unveiled as they are writing?
The story definitely unfolds as I write. I immerse myself. I'm someone who, once I start working on a novel, I will sit and write for anywhere from 8 to 16 hours a day. I don't necessarily recommend it. It can be hard on the body. But I do believe that you have to immerse yourself in the story and just let the story tell you what it is. I see you nodding, and things just start to come. Do y'all know who J. California Cooper is? Yeah, and when she was here, my former boss, I've worked for many years also as an editor, and my former boss was her editor, and California would talk about like, oh, the story would just tell her what it is, and the characters would speak to her. And I was much younger, and I was like, oh, this woman's crazy. I don't understand what she's talking about. But it's true. That's really what happens. And so then the characters just began to tell me who they were and the decisions they would make and what was gonna go down with the story. So.
That's incredible. I heard you had a section that you wanted to read to us tonight.
Yes.
Y'all want to hear a little bit of it?
So to set this up again, Gwendolyn has set up an event for the Brooklyn Museum. It's a big fashion show where there's also a singer who's at the centerpiece. And so I'm just going to start where the fashion show is doing its thing, and she and a few other characters are sitting in a beautiful space. So. Veronica's melismatic ooh filled the lobby. Her alto was wispy, layered with a 70s soul vibe as she wove through her signature song. The room of jaded actors and fashionistas and high-profile execs began buzzing. This was exactly what people had to expect from Sublime events, really Gwendolyn's events. Something special, indescribable. Still, she was nervous. Goosebumps suddenly appeared on her legs as a slight chill swept through the space. Black and brown models of all shapes and sizes strutted down the runway one by one, clad in browns and blacks and navies that represented Le Marquet's fall-winter collection. The band eased into their next set. A model in a white sweater and long skirts sweeping the ground strode forth, followed by another in a mohair jacket and baggy trousers. The light slowly faded. People gasped as they were swathed in darkness, and a special black light filled the lobby. Many radiated a blurry spectral white depending on what they wore. The singer's beaded gardenias and jeweled cheeks reflected the black light onto the ceiling, birthing a sea of twinkling stars. Luminous rays of gold and jade and lavender swept the crowd. The show with the surprise special effects was going exactly as planned. Gwendolyn sighed in relief even as she pulled her jacket tight around her body, the chill in the air palpable. As the museum turned on the AC, she wondered? More winter symbols were projected onto the ceiling, all rendered in impressionistic designs sewn onto pieces of the collection. The figures sparkled, taking Gwendolyn's breath away as if they'd come to life. She saw Vogue blurbs floating in her mind. Exceptional, an effervescent, elegant spectacle. Le Marquet has arrived. This would be a professional milestone, the designer celebrating the natural world at a show presenting his fall-winter collection. Gwendolyn's idea. Black and brown folks were often showcased in summery fashion campaigns, she'd argued, but why not honor our right to inhabit all seasons? Gwendolyn's phone vibrated in her skirt pocket. Media hits were coming in, she was sure. Notes of praise from people tuning into the live broadcast. But more importantly, offers to hold meetings, to shore up branding deals. Potential clients peeping the show would soon be reaching out, asking for opportunities to work together. New income was on the horizon. Sublime would be okay. Financial worries over. Yes. James took Gwendolyn's hand and gently squeezed her fingers. She glanced over, saw tears streaming down his face as he gazed upon what she created. Confirmation that she brought awe and grace to others with her work. Yes. Gwendolyn felt rejuvenated, able to breathe for the first time in days. Energy pulsing beneath her skin, energy she pushed down by instinct. She could refocus, enjoy the show, exult in her agency's future success, exult in being with her man. As the models walked out, craggy red streaks appeared at the runway entrance, flowing onto the floor, some sort of paint. Gwendolyn let go of James's hand. This effect wasn't in the production doc. More crimson paint flanked the runway as if being poured onto the platform. What's going on, James whispered. She gave a tiny shrug, mouthing, I don't know. Gwendolyn smelled something, the faint odor of copper. The models continued their walk. One model slipped on the paint and fell to the ground, letting out a tiny shriek as her feet were swept out from beneath her. Gwendolyn jumped from her seat and dashed to the runway. Are you okay, she asked as she leaned over the platform and reached out for the young woman. A second model fell, pulling down another, and then another. No, Gwendolyn thought. Veronica kept singing, but looked over with a question in her eyes. Should we stop? The special black light filling the lobby was too dim for Gwendolyn to discern what was happening. She pivoted from the runway and ran to the control booth, discreetly positioned behind the coat check. The technician responsible for the show's effects was still as a rock, dumbfounded. Turn on the lights, she shouted as she grabbed him by the arm, the air now so cold that her breath had begun to mist. The man glared briefly at Gwendolyn and flipped two buttons on his console. The entire museum flooded with light. Gwendolyn's heart pounded. She could see, everyone could see. Veronica stopped singing. The musicians stopped playing. A statuesque man with long platinum hair and a flowy pantsuit rushed onto the runway from backstage and bent down to assist the fallen model. Lamarque, his face crushed. Gwendolyn was just as horrified. The show a catastrophe. The runway, the walls, the models, all covered in scarlet paint. No, that wasn't right. Not paint. Blood. The metallic scent in the air should have told Gwendolyn all she needed to know. The same scent that had permeated morning dreams. She blinked, looked down, her linen suit splattered. Gwendolyn fought a wave of nausea. A multitude of sounds filled her ears as she absorbed everything around her. Lamarque was on stage cursing, the blood-soaked models in tears. Jessica leapt onto the runway to help. Veronica's jaw scraped the stage. Clyde ran toward the museum's exit, bodyguard in tow. James was frozen to his chair, head buried in his chest. Thick, streaking crimson everywhere, cold, numbing Gwendolyn's fingers. Something appeared on the back wall of the runway, smeared, dripping, hard to read. She squinted. It was in Spanish, letters large and jagged, grotesque, traidora, traitor.
I tried too.
And I see people's faces like, what?
I tried to tell.
And so what my purpose with the book is, thank you, my purpose with the book is to create a bridge for people who think like, nah, like horror, urban fantasy, or Afrofuturism isn't gonna be for me. But I'm like, no, it can be. And so that's why so much of Gwendolyn's scenes are like what we would know if we were attending a fashion show or an art exhibit or a gallery opening or a concert. It's really based in that world, and then the spookiness comes. And it's very purposely done because I wanted to bring people into genre, so.
Draw you in and then, did y'all enjoy that? Yeah, I think he's a great writer, and I hope we are going to do a book signing to give you a chance to pick that book up so you can read it for yourself. I want to ask you a question about not just the work that you're doing today, but because this is the early stage of your career, right? Do you intend to stick with this genre for a while? What do you have planned?
So anything I write, I will always have something that's fantastic. The things I know, we call it in the industry speculative fiction, so there'll always be something that will be, as you had pointed out before, extraordinary, fantasy-oriented, maybe science fiction. So that's my general rule. My other big rule is there'll always be black people, always. We'll always be centered, always. And I like genre fusions. One of the reasons I was heartened I'm Miss Jackson's opening act. And so one of the reasons I was heartened to be here for this is because I have such respect for what she's done with her work, for the romance genre in general. She infuses her work with love and with real world relationships and real world struggles. And I will always put those elements of romance into my work as well, because I think it's so important how we navigate desire and intimacy and connection. And our dreams, so.
That is so important. I'm glad to hear you say that you are starting with that. Because that helps me to understand the type of writer that you're going to be going forward. So tell us a little bit about how you came into the space, because when I read your bio, you started out as an editor, right?
I did. So I started off as an editor actually at Random House. So one of my literary heroes is Toni Morrison. She started off, I can't write nothing like her. But she started off as
I see the influence.
I absolutely adore her work. She started off as an editor and eventually transitioned into writing, and that's sort of been my art as well. I've worked in the industry for many years as a both in-house editor and freelance editor, and so it's been an honor to work with different authors and support them in their journeys. I haven't worked as his editor, but another great author, Doug Jones, is here. We know each other from the publishing world, and yeah, it's been a wonderful gift to have had that journey and learn from other writers, allow wonderful prose to impact my own approach to writing. So
here's a curveball question for you. In the day of AI, how do you see AI influencing your future?
that's a wonderful question. I think about that all the time. I think we're always going to have authors doing their thing because people will be invested in the human experience. Because at the end of the day, the AI is just going to churn out something that's a replica of someone else's stuff. And I think we're gonna people are gonna hold on to this like, no, this was a flesh and blood person who created something, and that's important. I think there's gonna be even more of an emphasis on finding out the backstories, like the stories of the writers and what influenced them, what inspired them to do what they do. And then I also think my hope is sometimes with publishing, things can be pretty formulaic, and I'm hoping if AI just gets to the point where it can just put out formulaic stuff, that then there'll be like this renaissance of like writing where just a lot of things will be out of the box. I bring up Sinners again, and why I think it was such an effective film was because it just did this thing and put these things together that you weren't technically supposed to put together in that way.
But artistically, though.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and I just hope, I think my hope is that with writing, we'll just really begin to embrace just like a certain level of creativity and freedom, and people will go along for the ride. And sometimes it's gonna feel like, what is this? But then we'll have discussions and you'll sit with it and process, and that's my hope. That's what I think.
Okay, all right, we can live with that, right? That sounds amazing. So for your next book, I want to be in it.
Remember you said that.
Y'all heard me say it. And because he's so creative, he's coming up with these characters like, I could be in the book too then. So if you put me in the book, I think I want the superpower of being, I want a superpower too. I want to be in your next story, and I want a superpower that will allow me not just to see into the future, but to influence change in the future.
Why would you want that power? Why is that important to you?
I'm doing an interview, right?
Because I can do that.
You can do that? You can put me in one of your books?
I can. You won't sue me?
No, not at all. I think that what I have learned in reading Denny Bryson, Vanessa Riley, and Brenda Jackson, and all of you guys, we read because you bring about change in our lives, right? Am I right? We see the world differently because of the words that they put in front of us. And I love that, because what it means is I can be who I am today, but with your words, with your inspiration, I could be something different. I can change. I can evolve.
And I was going to say, I think it's exactly the word you used, evolve, because I think I know sometimes when I read something and it has a profound effect on me, I'm like, oh, it's like something that's always been there, but maybe I haven't had the guts to just go there. I didn't have the language, or I didn't have the way that the writer can put it. They take you on a journey, and then you're like, this is what I needed.
This is what I needed. So here's my final question, then I'm going to open it up to the floor. So I want to know, when you wrote this story, was there any, this story isn't like a deep book, right? It's interesting, it's entertaining. You will see the characters and fall in love with them. But it's not like a Dr. Daniel Black, where you be like, oh my God, we got to do better, people. It's not that, right? But if there were a key takeaway for us, can you tell us what that would be?
Sure. My obsession is for us to individually, collectively sit with our past. I firmly believe that, we've all had something, most of us, I should say, have had something happen to us that, particularly when we were younger, during our formative years, we didn't have control over our lives, but it impacts us. And if we don't grapple with the things that we endured in our past, it impacts how we move through the world. It impacts how our level of actualization, our agency, how powerful we feel we are, how we connect with others. It impacts our desire. It impacts who we get with. It impacts whether we put up with a knucklehead or be like, oh hell no, I'm better than that. So I really, that's kind of my big hope, what I hope folks will take away for the book, to sit with that. And yes, it's purposely meant to be fast-paced and page-turning, but there's edge and there's seriousness, and that's all I'll say. And a lot of humor and mischief as well. So.